Here is the front of a Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, and here is the rear half of a Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, and today we've got to connect both of them together.
Crashed his Bugatti, the responsibility somehow landed on me to bring it back to life. What started as a bold idea quickly turned into something far more complicated, especially when Bugatti themselves refused to sell us the parts we needed. Their stance was simple. They didn't believe it was safe, and more importantly, they didn't believe it was even possible for us to repair the car without their direct involvement. According to them, this wasn't something you could just tackle in a regular garage. But despite all that doubt, we had already made serious progress. In the previous stage, we managed to separate the rear half of the car from the front, which was a massive step considering how complex this machine is. The car was literally split into two sections, sitting on makeshift supports. We could access a critical failure point, the broken gearbox and engine mounting. Now came the real challenge, figuring out how to fix that damage and bring everything back together. We had two main options. One was to scan the broken mounting, recreate it digitally, and then machine a brand new version from a solid block of aluminum using CNC technology. On paper, that sounded ideal because a single-piece machined part could actually be stronger than the original cast component. But the risks were serious. The mounting also houses crank sensors, and if even one of those sensors ended up slightly out of position, just a few millimeters off, it could throw off the entire engine. That could mean rough running, incorrect boost levels, or the engine not starting at all. Or add to that the cost and time involved in machining such a precise component, and suddenly the idea didn't feel so safe anymore. The second option was to repair the original part. This had its own uncertainties because we didn't even know if it was possible to fix it properly. But if it worked, it meant keeping the original geometry intact, which removed the risk of sensor misalignment. It would also be far cheaper. So we took the damaged mounting to a specialist machinist named Bob, who began by analyzing the material. There was concern that it might contain magnesium, which would make welding extremely difficult or even impossible. Fortunately, after some inspection and expert input, it seemed like the material could be welded successfully. Bob started by preparing the surface, some cleaning the damaged areas and ensuring everything aligned perfectly before attempting any welding. This was a crucial moment because all our progress depended on whether this repair would hold. Once he confirmed the material was weldable, things started to look promising. He carefully measured everything using a milling machine to ensure the part wouldn't shift during the repair process. Then, he selected the appropriate welding rod, balancing between one that offered better flow and one that provided stronger bonding. After tack welding the part together, he placed it in an oven to heat it evenly. This step reduces stress in the metal and helps create a stronger weld. As he worked, it became clear he was confident in the repair, even stating that the welded section could end up stronger than the original casting. To reinforce it further, he fabricated additional structural supports using templates, filling in gaps that the original design had left open due to manufacturing constraints. These reinforcements added rigidity and strength, essentially improving on the factory design. Once the repair was complete, we made the decision to use this restored mounting. It felt like the best balance between reliability and practicality, even though there was still some uncertainty about how it would behave under real conditions. With that in place, we began reassembling the engine. Every component had to go back precisely as it was, from the wastegates that regulate turbo pressure to the titanium bolts holding the engine in place. When the moment came to let the engine rest on the repaired mount, everything held. It was a huge relief and a major milestone. From there, we continued rebuilding, installing the flywheel with exact torque specifications to avoid vibration issues. The gearbox was then aligned and reattached, which brought its own set of challenges. Without official guidance, we had to rely on careful observation and logic to reconnect electrical systems, oil lines, and sensors. Every plug mattered, and a single mistake could cause major problems later. Even something as simple as filling the gearbox with oil became a guessing game since we didn't know the exact type or procedure required. We filtered the old oil carefully and refilled it, hoping it would be sufficient. With the engine and gearbox back together, we moved on to reconnecting the car itself. The front and rear halves had to be joined again, something Bugatti claimed required specialized equipment. We improvised with what we had, and are carefully aligning everything and securing it with bolts. During this process, a mistake with torque settings caused one of the bolts to snap, which was a setback. But thankfully, we managed to extract it without having to separate the car again. As everything came together, we reconnected hoses, wiring, fuel lines, and cooling systems. There were still concerns, especially since the car had previously been run without coolant, which could have caused hidden damage. But at this stage, the focus was simply on getting the engine to start. After reconnecting the battery and double-checking every connection, the moment finally arrived. The engine fired up on the first attempt. It was loud, extremely loud, but it ran. That alone proved that the repair had worked. The gearbox engaged, the car moved, and then despite a small issue with a fuel line popping off, everything functioned as it should after a quick fix. In the end, the biggest surprise wasn't whether the car would run. It was how it sounded. Even after modifying the exhaust and removing restrictions, the sound didn't change dramatically. It was slightly deeper and louder, but not the dramatic transformation you might expect. That's largely due to the nature of the engine and its multiple turbochargers, which tend to muffle the sound. Still, the real victory wasn't in how it sounded. It was in proving that something deemed impossible could actually be done. The car was back together, running and moving under its own power. There's still more work ahead, especially in ensuring long-term reliability. But this was a huge step forward in a journey that many believed would fail before it even began.